Have you ever found yourself sitting in your favorite chair, maybe looking out the window as the world goes by, and you realize that after all the years of working hard and raising a family, the one thing you crave most is simply peace? A genuine, quiet peace. The kind that isn't stirred up by well-meaning advice you never asked for, or the heavy weight of other people's expectations. We all want that, don't we? For our entire lives, we've been taught that honesty and openness are the bedrock of a strong family. But here is the difficult truth, a truth I've witnessed firsthand in my decades as a family doctor. After the age of 65, that very act of loving transparency can sometimes become an accidental invitation to chaos. It can silently bring pressure, resentment, and a feeling that you're suddenly walking on eggshells in your own home. As a physician who has had the privilege of caring for generations of families, I can tell you with complete certainty, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself in these golden years isn't found in sharing everything. It's found in the quiet strength and wisdom of knowing what to hold safely for yourself. I'm not speaking in theories. I'm thinking of a patient of mine, a wonderful man we'll call Arthur. He was an open book with his children about everything. His finances, his past disappointments, his worries for the future. He believed it would forge an unbreakable bond. But in the end, he found himself feeling lonely, quietly controlled, and his voice, the strong voice of a patriarch, had become a whisper in his own life. Arthur's story is a quiet warning for all of us. Today, I want to ensure that you are armed with the wisdom that Arthur learned too late. We will walk through the 4 specific things that are often best kept private. This isn't about building walls. It's about protecting the peace and dignity you have so rightfully earned. And please, make sure you stay with me until the very end. Because the 4th secret I'll reveal is the most important one. It doesn't just protect your feelings. It protects your very legacy as the wise and respected leader of your family. What I'm about to share comes from hundreds of heartfelt conversations in my office, from the real-life stories of people just like you. So, before we dive in, I truly want to know how many of you have faced this. If what I just shared feels familiar, please comment a simple yes below. It shows me you understand, and it shows others they are not alone. Okay, let's get started. Alright, let's now uncover the first of these 4 secrets. This is perhaps the most common mistake I see, and it is almost always born from a place of love and a desire to be responsible. Secret number 1. The true size of your nest egg. The most widespread habit I've observed among my older patients is the belief that total transparency about their finances with their adult children is the right thing to do. It feels like responsible planning, doesn't it? It's the idea that if everyone knows what's there, they can prepare for the future, make better decisions, and everything will be open and honest. It's a beautiful sentiment. But in my experience, the reality of what happens next is often far from beautiful. The moment you reveal the exact numbers in your savings account, your 401k, or the value of your home, a subtle, yet powerful, shift occurs in the family dynamic. It's a change that is almost imperceptible at first, but its effects can be deeply unsettling. You are no longer seen simply as mom or dad. You unknowingly also become a financial resource, a set of numbers on a spreadsheet. And every single decision you make with your money you worked a lifetime to earn, is suddenly placed under a microscope. Every purchase, no matter how small or personal, can become a subject for family debate. This is where the core issue, especially as we age, takes root. In any family, there's a natural and healthy evolution of roles. As we get older, our children step up to help more. But when your net worth becomes common knowledge, this natural power shift can accelerate in an unhealthy way. It can feel less like your children are supporting you, and more like they are managing you. You can begin to feel as if you need to ask for permission to use your own money, almost like a child asking for an allowance. Have you ever felt this? That little pang of hesitation before buying something you truly want or need. Perhaps you've been dreaming of a new, comfortable recliner to ease your aching back, but you pause, because you can already hear a voice in your head, the voice of a well-meaning child saying, "Dad, should you really be spending that much on a chair? Maybe you should save that money, just in case." Or you want to donate to your church or a charity that's close to your heart, and you're met with gentle questioning about whether that's the most prudent use of your funds. That hesitation, that moment of self-censorship, that is the symptom. It's the first sign that you have lost a piece of your financial autonomy. I will never forget a patient of mine, a truly lovely woman named Margaret. For years, she and her bridge club friends had planned a once-in-a-lifetime cruise to Alaska. It was all they talked about. After her husband passed, Margaret decided life was too short and it was finally time to go. In an effort to be open, she had previously shared the details of her savings with her 2 grown children. When she excitedly told them about her trip, she expected them to share in her joy. Instead, she was met with concerned looks. They called a family meeting to discuss the expense. They talked about her funds as if they were a corporate asset, debating the cost versus the benefit, and suggesting a less expensive road trip might be more sensible. Margaret sat there, listening to her children debate her own dream. The joy was just gone. Stolen. She told me later, with tears in her eyes. They weren't trying to be cruel, but they made me feel like I was a child, irresponsibly spending their inheritance. She had lost her freedom. So, here is the simple, powerful solution. You must protect your financial privacy. This is not about deceit or hiding things. It is about maintaining healthy boundaries. You do not owe anyone a detailed accounting of your life savings. When asked, you don't need to be defensive or secretive. A simple, warm, and wonderfully vague response is all that's needed. Something like, "Oh, you know me, I'm doing just fine, dear. Nothing for you to worry about." That's it. It's calm, it's loving, and it closes the conversation. I want you to stop feeling guilty for not sharing. You worked for 40 or 50 years. You sacrificed. You saved. You worried. Now is the time to enjoy the fruits of that labor without needing a committee's approval. And please, understand that this perspective is not about becoming ungenerous. Of course not. There is immense joy in helping your children and grandchildren. But that help should be a gift given from your heart, on your terms, when you see a need and decide to act. It should not be an expected withdrawal from a family bank account, given out of pressure or guilt. True generosity is a choice, and that choice can only be made freely when you retain your financial independence. If you agree that your financial freedom is worth protecting, that you've earned the right to make your own choices, please comment with the 2 simple words below, "My terms." Now, let's move to the second secret. This one is less about money and more about the heart. It delves into the delicate fabric of our family memories and the old wounds that many of us carry. Secret number 2. Lingering family disappointments. There is a very human, very understandable habit that I see in many people who have reached their later years. It is the tendency to revisit old hurts, to bring up past disappointments in conversation, often with the quiet hope that this time, they will finally be understood. It could be the memory of a holiday when a child didn't come home, a string of broken promises, or harsh words spoken in anger decades ago that still echo in a quiet moment. The intention is almost always to heal, to finally receive the apology or the acknowledgement that was never given. You think that if you can just make them understand how deeply they wounded you, a bridge can be built, and the relationship can be repaired. But here is the difficult truth I've learned from listening to hundreds of families. Constantly reopening old wounds rarely leads to empathy. It almost always leads to defense. When your adult child hears the same painful story for the 10th time, they don't typically respond with a newfound understanding. They respond by building a wall. They may feel attacked or shamed, or simply exhausted by a past they cannot change. Instead of leaning in with compassion, they lean away to protect themselves. The conversation doesn't build a bridge, it deepens the chasm between you. The core reason this becomes more pronounced as we get older is rooted in our natural desire for closure. Life's timeline becomes more precious, and we feel a deep, internal pull to resolve unfinished business, to make sense of our life story, and to heal the broken parts of our family history. It is a noble instinct. But the paradox is that sometimes, the desperate attempt to force a resolution with another person is precisely what prevents us from finding our own internal peace. The very act of fixing the past only serves to fracture the present. The most common symptom of this is a predictable, painful pattern in your conversations. Does this sound familiar? You have a phone call with your son or daughter. It starts out pleasant enough. You talk about the weather, the grandkids. But then, something they say triggers a memory, and you find yourself steering the conversation back to that old hurt. You can almost feel the energy shift over the phone line. Their voice becomes a little tighter, their answers a little shorter. The call ends, and you're left with that familiar, hollow feeling of being misunderstood. That feeling of tense silence hangs in the air. That is the sign. That is the proof that this approach is not bringing you closer. It is pushing them further away. I had a patient, a good man named Robert, who was a decorated veteran and a proud father. But he was haunted by the fact that his son had missed his 70th birthday party years earlier due to a work conflict. To Robert, it was a profound sign of disrespect. For nearly a decade, almost every serious conversation he had with his son would eventually circle back to that missed party. He would say things like, "You'll never understand how much that hurt me." He just wanted his son to finally grasp the depth of his pain. But the result was tragic. His son, who was not a bad person but was weary of the constant guilt, started calling less and less. He told me in a separate session, "I love my dad, but every call feels like a trial where I'm always found guilty." The very thing Robert wanted most, closeness with his son, was the one thing his actions were making impossible. The solution, then, is not to bury your pain, but to change its audience. Your feelings are valid, but your adult children may no longer be the right recipients for them. You must find a healthier, more constructive outlet. Pour your heart out into a journal. Let the ink absorb the anger and the sadness. Speak with a trusted friend who can listen without judgment. Or find solace in prayer or with a spiritual advisor. These are safe harbors for your pain, places where it can be processed without causing further damage to your most precious relationships. So I urge you, begin the practice of silent forgiveness. This is a profound act of self-love. It is not about saying what happened was okay. It's about making a conscious choice to no longer let it have power over your present happiness. You forgive them not because they have earned it, but because you deserve peace. You deserve to have conversations with your children that are filled with laughter and love for who they are today, not haunted by the ghosts of who they were yesterday. If you are ready to choose inner peace over the need to be right, please show your commitment by commenting with one powerful word: peace. Let's now turn our attention to the third secret. This one is deeply intertwined with our legacy, our love for our family, and unfortunately, it is the one that holds the most power to unintentionally plant seeds of discord and rivalry among those we love the most. Secret number 3. The details of your will and inheritance plan. There is a common mistake I see, and it always comes from the best of intentions. It's the decision to sit the family down and announce the contents of your last will and testament long before it's time. The thinking behind this is logical and loving. If I tell everyone my plans now, the person thinks, it will create clarity. It will prevent any surprises or arguments after I'm gone. It will be fair. The goal is to create harmony. But in my many years of practice, I have seen this single act of premature disclosure do the exact opposite. More often than not, it becomes the catalyst for the very conflict it was meant to prevent. The psychological reason for this is as old as humanity itself. Money and love are a volatile combination. When your children are young, your love is expressed through hugs, bedtime stories, and guidance. It is unconditional. But the moment you assign a dollar value to that love in the form of an inheritance plan and announce it, something changes. Love risks becoming quantified. Relationships can subtly shift from being purely emotional to partially transactional. Even in the most loving and stable families, the human mind begins to do what it does best. It compares. Why did my sister get the family home, and I got the stock portfolio? Why is my share structured differently from my brother's? The questions start as whispers in the mind and can grow into spoken resentments. This dynamic becomes especially potent as we get older. As we confront our own mortality, we develop a powerful desire to leave things in a state of order and fairness. We want our final act on this earth to be one that reflects our love equally and wisely. But here's the critical piece of the puzzle. Your definition of fair may be vastly different from your children's. You might decide to leave a larger portion to a child who has struggled financially, seeing it as an act of compassionate equity. But your more financially successful child might perceive this as a penalty for their success, a sign that you loved them less. Your idea of fairness can be interpreted as favoritism, and the seeds of sibling rivalry, long dormant since childhood, can be watered and bloom into full-blown conflict. The symptom that this problem is brewing is often subtle. It isn't usually an outright argument. It's the little comments, the passive-aggressive remarks that start to surface after the big talk. It's a sudden, new tension during holiday gatherings. You might notice one child suddenly making a point of how much they do for you, while another becomes slightly more distant. They are, consciously or not, jockeying for position or reacting to what they perceive as their standing in your final decree. The peace of your home has been disrupted by the specter of a future transaction. I once counseled a family where the father, a wonderful man, was a passionate collector. His most prized possession was an old coin collection. He had 2 sons who had never shown much interest in it. In his 70s, he decided to tell them he was leaving the collection to his eldest son, as he was the firstborn. He thought it was a simple, traditional decision. He was wrong. The younger son was deeply hurt, not because he wanted the coins, but because he interpreted his father's decision as a declaration that he loved the elder son more. It started a feud between the brothers that lasted for years, all while their father was still alive and healthy, forced to watch the bitter consequences of his well-intentioned announcement. He had wanted to create clarity. Instead, he had created a wound. Therefore, the solution is one of elegance and simplicity. You must treat your will as the profoundly private and personal document that it is. The absolute best course of action is to work with a qualified attorney. Get professional advice. Make your decisions with care and thought. Create a clear, legally sound last will and testament. And then, put it away in a safe and secure place, and do not discuss its specific contents. When people ask, your response can be both loving and firm. I've taken care of everything to make sure it's fair, and it's all handled. Now, let's not talk about such things. Let's enjoy our time together. I implore you, let your legacy be the memories you create, not the assets you designate. Let your love be felt through your daily actions, your presence, your wisdom, and your affection. Do not allow that beautiful love to be reduced to a number on a legal document before its time. When you are gone, your written words, executed by a neutral third party, will speak for you with a clarity and finality that an emotional family conversation never can. In the meantime, you give your children the incredible gift of relating to you purely as their parent, not as their benefactor. To affirm your commitment to leaving a legacy of love, not conflict, please comment with the single word, dignity. We now arrive at our 4th and final secret. In many ways, this is the most personal and perhaps the most difficult one to keep. It goes against our modern instinct to share everything we feel. But as I will explain, protecting this part of yourself is absolutely essential to preserving your strength, your independence, and your respected place within the family. Secret number 4. Your deepest fears and frailties. As the years pass, it is only natural that we become more acquainted with vulnerability. Our bodies change. Our energy levels shift. The future feels less certain. And a very common response to this reality is to begin voicing every worry that bubbles to the surface. It often starts innocently enough. We might say, "Oh, my memory just isn't what it used to be." Or, "I'm so afraid of having a fall when I'm alone." Or the most heartbreaking one I hear, "I just feel like I'm becoming a burden." We share these fears, seeking comfort, reassurance, and connection. We believe that being honest about our struggles will bring our loved ones closer. But there is a profound psychological shift that can happen when this type of sharing becomes a constant refrain. Your family, especially your adult children, can slowly begin to see you through a different lens. The image they have held of you their entire lives, the image of the strong, capable, wise parent who was the fixer of problems and the source of all answers, can begin to fade. It gets replaced by a new image, that of a person who is fragile, anxious, and in need of constant management. They start to worry about you, which is natural, but that worry can morph into a desire to control. The core reason this is so critical in our later years is that it directly impacts our autonomy. The aging process naturally presents challenges to our independence. We may need to stop driving at night or ask for help with heavy lifting. These are practical changes. But when you project an identity of constant fear and frailty, you invite others to preemptively strip away your independence in areas where you are still perfectly capable. Your children may start making decisions for you instead of with you, all under the noble banner of keeping you safe. They do it out of love, but the end result is that your world can begin to shrink, and your voice in your own life can become quieter and quieter. The clearest symptom of this is when you notice that you are no longer being consulted on important matters. Perhaps your children rearranged the furniture in your living room for safety reasons, without asking you first. Or maybe they signed you up for a service or made a doctor's appointment on your behalf, simply informing you after the fact. If you find yourself being talked about as if you aren't in the room, or if your opinions are met with a gentle, "Don't you worry about that, Mom, we'll handle it," then you are seeing the direct result of having unintentionally taught them that you are no longer the capable head of your own life. I think of my patient, Helen, a vibrant woman who, in her late 70s, began to experience some normal age-related memory lapses. She became very anxious about it and spoke of her fear of dementia to her daughter constantly. Her daughter, terrified, swung into overprotective action. One day, Helen discovered her daughter had sold her car without her permission, reasoning that it was no longer safe for her to drive, even though her driving record was perfect. Then, she hired a part-time caregiver to check in on Helen, again, without discussion. Helen felt utterly disempowered. Her daughter wasn't being malicious. She was reacting to the fearful identity Helen had projected. Helen had shared her weakness so often that her daughter could no longer see her strength. The solution is not to suffer in silence or to pretend you don't have concerns. It is to practice the art of selective sharing and strategic reframing. You must be the primary guardian of your own image of strength. So instead of saying, "I'm so scared I'm going to fall," try reframing it as a proactive statement. "I'm looking into getting some better lighting for the hallway to make things safer." Instead of, "My memory is terrible," try, "I'm starting to use a new calendar system to keep myself organized." See the difference? One is a statement of fear and victimhood. The other is a statement of proactive problem-solving and resilience. So please, I urge you, remember who you are. You are not a collection of fears and ailments. You are a survivor. You have weathered economic depressions, wars, personal losses, and decades of life's unpredictable storms. You are not weak. You are weathered. And there is immense power and wisdom in that. Let your family see your resilience more than they see your struggle. Seek help when you need it, but never, ever let fear become your identity. To honor the incredible resilience that has carried you through a lifetime, please comment below with the word that defines you: strength. So, as we bring our time together to a close, let's come back to the story we began with. The story of my patient, Arthur. The man who was an open book with his family and, in doing so, accidentally wrote himself out of his own life's final chapters. After a few long, honest conversations in my office, Arthur decided to try a new way. A quieter way. He began to gently guard his privacy. When his children asked about his finances, he no longer gave them a detailed report. He simply smiled and said, "Everything is just fine, son. Nothing you need to worry about." He made a conscious choice to stop reopening old, painful wounds from the past, instead choosing to focus on the present moment with his family. And a remarkable thing began to happen. The tense phone calls that felt like interrogations. They slowly transformed into relaxed chats about the grandkids. The feeling of being managed and monitored was gradually replaced by a quiet, renewed respect. His children began to see him not as a fragile asset to be protected, but as their father once again. Wise, independent, strong. In learning the quiet power of what to keep for himself, Arthur got his voice back. Arthur's story brings us to the simple, vital lesson of our time together today. The core truth is this: your greatest and most precious treasure after the age of 65 is not your stock portfolio, your home, or your savings account. It is your tranquility of spirit, your inner peace. And that peace is not something that just happens. It is built, day by day, with a quiet strength of wise and loving boundaries. The 4 secrets we've discussed are the very tools you need to build that beautiful, peaceful life you so richly deserve. Knowledge is a powerful thing, but it is only truly powerful when we put it into action. It's the small steps we take that create the biggest changes in our lives. So now, I have one final and most important question for you. What is the one small commitment you are making to yourself this week after hearing this message? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can be something wonderfully simple. Perhaps your commitment is, I will not explain or apologize for a small purchase that brings me joy. Or maybe it's, I will choose to let an old, painful argument rest, just for today. Please, take a moment to share your personal commitment in the comments section below. When you write it down, it becomes more real. And when you share it, you give courage and inspiration to others in this community to take their own first step. If you found real value and a sense of comfort in our time together today, showing your support with a simple like on this video is deeply appreciated. And to ensure you continue on this journey with us, to receive more guidance for navigating these years with grace and strength, I warmly invite you to hit that subscribe button. It's more than just a click. It's you joining a growing community of wise individuals dedicated to living our best lives together. Finally, I am almost certain that as you were listening, one specific person came to your mind. A friend, a sibling, a neighbor. Someone you care about who needs to hear this message of empowerment and peace. Please, take a moment and share this video with them. It could be the most meaningful gift you give them all week. Thank you for sharing your valuable time with me. Stay strong, stay wise, and always protect your peace.